The night hums with Atlanta's pulse, a city of glass and secrets beneath the velvet sky. Darius Kane watches from the top floor of his penthouse, the skyline burning in gold reflection across the windows. Tonight marks the final step of a plan 10 years in the making. He's bought everything: power, respect, silence. But the name, Ellis, still burns on his tongue like a scar. When his assistant announces that Amara Ellis is waiting in the lobby, his jaw tightens. The daughter of the man who destroyed his mother, the last piece of his revenge. Yet, when the elevator doors open and she steps out, the air shifts. She is nothing like he imagined. Not spoiled, not arrogant. Her presence feels like quiet music, elegant, unguarded. "Miss Ellis," he says, voice low and deliberate. "You've come about your father's estate." She nods softly, her voice trembling like a cello string. "I'm just here to find a way to save my mother's home." Her honesty catches him off guard. In her eyes, he sees no guilt. Only light, fragile and trembling, flickering against the darkness he's built inside himself. In his office, Darius leads Amara to the long glass table where contracts lie waiting. Her name, printed in black ink, seems like fate spelled out. As he explains the purchase terms, his voice stays steady, but inside, memory burns. His mother's tears, his promise for justice. Amara listens quietly, unaware she's standing at the center of his vengeance. When she finally looks up and whispers, "You're offering to pay my family's debts." Darius nods, forcing a calm smile. "I help people who deserve a second chance." Her relief softens the air, and for the first time in years, guilt brushes his chest like smoke. After she leaves, silence fills the penthouse like a haunting. Darius stands alone again, staring at the signed papers. His plan should feel satisfying. The Ellis legacy now belongs to him, but instead unease crawls beneath his confidence. Amara's eyes won't leave his mind. He remembers the tremor in her voice, the way she held hope as if it were fragile glass. When Jade calls to celebrate the acquisition, Darius hesitates before answering. "We got it," he says, but his tone lacks triumph. "You don't sound like a man who just won," Jade replies. At home, Amara sits beside her mother's bed, the old house creaking with memory. Evelyn Ellis, fragile and quiet, rests under soft lamplight. "You did what you had to," Evelyn murmurs. Amara nods, though worry clouds her eyes. She touches the piano keys nearby, the melody of her childhood rising faintly. "Maybe this will help us start over," she whispers. Yet, as her fingers linger on the keys, she feels something unspoken. The strange pull of Darius Kane's gaze still lingering in her chest. Later that night, Darius stands on his balcony, whiskey glass in hand, wind tugging at his shirt. The city hums below, but his thoughts are louder. Of promises, of pain, of eyes too pure for vengeance. He whispers his mother's name into the dark, as though seeking approval. But all he hears is the echo of Amara's voice, trembling with grace. The revenge that once fueled him now feels like an ache he doesn't understand. Morning light pours through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Kane Global. Darius sits behind his mahogany desk, but his usual confidence feels fractured. When Amara enters, her presence softens the sterile air. She's here to sign the new contract, a partnership that will allow her to keep her home and continue her music career under his sponsorship. What she doesn't know is that the deal is designed to tie her to him completely. He watches her read each line, her brow furrowing with concern. "I don't like owing people," she murmurs. "You're not owing," he lies smoothly. "You're investing in your future." When her pen touches the page, he feels the strange sting of victory, one that tastes far too much like guilt. Later that afternoon, Amara steps into her new reality, a luxury condo Darius arranged for her convenience. She walks through glass corridors, and polished marble floors, overwhelmed by the opulence. Darius follows silently, his presence filling the space like heat. "This is temporary," she insists, her voice trembling with modest protest. He smiles faintly. "Everything in life is temporary." For a moment she meets his eyes and sees something human there. Something almost tender. Before it vanishes beneath his practiced control. That evening, Jade visits Darius in the private lounge below the penthouse. The lights are low, the air thick with whiskey and warning. "You're mixing business with something dangerous," Jade tells him, leaning forward. Darius doesn't answer immediately. He's thinking of Amara's voice, how she said his name softly when signing the contract. "I know what I'm doing," he says, but Jade's eyes narrow. Do you? Because she's not her father. And you're starting to forget that." Amara spends her first night alone in the new condo. Rain begins to fall, soft and persistent. She sits by the piano, fingers trembling as she plays a melody her father once taught her, one filled with longing and regret. The notes echo through the empty space like whispers of the past. Across town, Darius listens to a recording of her playing that his security team sent, his jaw tightening as he realizes he's crossed another line. The sound of her sorrow pulls at something buried deep inside him. At dawn, Darius drives through the quiet streets of Atlanta, his reflection ghosted across the windshield. The world feels different, heavier. He's supposed to feel satisfaction knowing his plan is working, that the woman he once blamed is now part of his empire. Instead, he remembers her tears when she mentioned her mother. He grips the steering wheel tighter, whispering to himself, "Don't feel." But her face lingers, the way she looked at him not as an enemy, but as a man she might someday trust. It's been 2 weeks since Amara moved into the condo, and already her presence echoes through Darius' life in ways he never expected. Her music fills his mornings, a soft, classical rhythm that slips through his thoughts like memory. One afternoon, she visits his office for a progress meeting. The light from the windows paints her in quiet gold. "You wanted an update," she says, her tone professional but cautious. Darius nods, trying not to stare at the curve of her smile as she speaks. "You're doing well," he replies. His voice sounds foreign, too soft. When she leaves, the scent of her perfume lingers in the air, and for the first time, Darius admits he's losing control of the very game he designed. Amara spends her evenings rehearsing for a charity gala Darius is sponsoring. One night, he unexpectedly stops by the rehearsal hall. The moment he hears her playing, time fractures. Her music is raw, grief and hope intertwined. She looks up mid-song, startled to see him in the doorway. "You shouldn't sneak up on people," she says with a smile. "You shouldn't sound like that," he replies quietly. For a heartbeat, their eyes lock, something fragile and forbidden passing between them. Then she looks away, fingers trembling on the keys. Jade finds Darius in his penthouse that night, pacing the floor like a man haunted. "You're breaking your own rules," Jade warns. Darius stops at the window, looking out at the city. "I'm not breaking them," he says quietly. "I just can't remember why I made them." Jade shakes his head. "She's making you forget the past, and maybe that's the point." Darius turns, frustration flickering in his eyes. "She's Ellis's daughter," he insists. "And you're a man falling in love," Jade counters. The truth lands like a stone between them. Back in the condo, Amara finishes a call with her mother and sits in silence, her thoughts circling Darius. He's unpredictable, both protector and mystery. She tells herself it's gratitude she feels, not attraction. But when she recalls the way he looked at her during rehearsal, her breath catches. She moves to the balcony, the night wind cool against her skin. Somewhere downtown, she knows he's awake too, both of them caught in the quiet war between reason and emotion. Near midnight, Darius finds himself driving past Amara's building, headlights slicing through the mist. He doesn't go inside, just watches from a distance as her balcony light flickers off. His chest tightens with something he can't name. The revenge that once defined him now feels hollow, replaced by an ache he doesn't trust. "You're losing yourself," he mutters to his reflection in the car window. But in truth, for the first time in years, he feels something that resembles being alive. The night of the charity gala arrives like a storm wrapped in silk. Darius watches from across the ballroom as Amara plays the piano beneath a halo of light, her fingers dancing over the keys with soul and sorrow. Every note pierces him, each one a confession she doesn't know she's making. Guests whisper and smile, but to Darius she's the only sound in the room. When the applause fades, she catches his gaze. Her eyes glimmer with gratitude, unaware that his pulse is racing with something far deeper than admiration. For the first time, revenge feels meaningless against the beauty of her truth. After the performance, Darius finds her outside on the terrace, where city lights shimmer below like fallen stars. "You played beautifully," he says quietly. Amara turns, surprised by his sincerity. "I only play what I feel," she replies. For a long moment they stand in silence, the night air thick with everything they're not saying. A breeze lifts her hair, and Darius' hand almost rises to touch it, but he stops himself. "You remind me of something I forgot I could believe in," he admits. Her breath catches. But before she can answer, he walks away, terrified of his own honesty. Days later, Amara visits Darius' office with unexpected news. The charity foundation she performed for has offered her a full-time position. Her joy is pure, unguarded. Darius listens, smiling faintly, but the weight in his chest grows heavier. This was supposed to be the moment he'd reveal the truth, to break the illusion. But when she speaks about how his belief in her changed her life, he can't do it. "You deserve this," he says, voice thick. She reaches across the table, her hand brushing his. The contact is brief, electric. For the first time, Darius feels small in the presence of someone's light. That night, Darius returns home alone. The city glitters beyond the glass walls, but he sees only her face. His mother's photograph sits on his desk, her eyes kind, tired. "I thought revenge would make me whole," he whispers to the picture, "but it only made me empty." As thunder rumbles in the distance, a knock sounds at the door. It's Amara, drenched from the sudden rain, holding a folder she forgot at his office. When he opens the door, something inside him breaks. "You shouldn't be here," he says softly. "Maybe I should," she replies, her voice trembling. For a long moment they simply stand there, the sound of rain filling the silence. Darius reaches for the folder, but his fingers brush hers instead. Her breath stutters. "Why do you look at me like that?" she asks, her eyes searching his. He swallows hard, unable to answer. Then, without meaning to, he whispers, "Because you make me forget everything I swore I'd remember." A single tear slips down her cheek, catching the soft light. In that instant, something inside him shatters completely. The revenge, the anger, the walls, all that's left is her. Morning breaks heavy with silence. Amara wakes to find an envelope slipped under her door, embossed with the Kane Global logo. Inside, a newspaper article details the acquisition of the Ellis estate, exposing that Darius purchased it months before offering her help. Her chest tightens as she reads the headline. Kane acquires Ellis Holdings in strategic takeover. Betrayal floods her veins, slow and cold. Every word he ever said now feels like a lie wrapped in charm. The melody she once played for him echoes in her mind, but now it sounds like mourning. She storms into Kane Global without an appointment, her heart pounding like thunder. The receptionist's words blur as she pushes past. When she bursts into Darius' office, he's at the window, back turned. "Tell me it's not true," she demands. His silence answers her. "You used me," she whispers. Darius turns, guilt etched across his face. "It started that way," he admits softly. "But it didn't stay that way." Her voice trembles. "You took my life and turned it into a transaction." His jaw tightens, not in pride, but in shame. "I never meant to fall in love with you," he says. But the words come too late. Security tries to stop her as she leaves, but Darius follows into the hallway. "Amara, wait," he pleads. She turns, eyes blazing. "For what?" Another lie. Her voice breaks, and tears well despite her strength. "You made me believe in you." Darius steps closer but doesn't touch her. "You made me believe in myself," he says quietly. She shakes her head and backs away, pressing the elevator button with trembling hands. When the doors close between them, he sees his reflection on the mirrored surface. A man unrecognizable to himself. Later that night, Darius sits in his penthouse surrounded by silence. The contract that began it all lies torn on the floor. Jade arrives, taking in the chaos. "You told her?" he asks. Darius nods faint. "She found out." Jade exhales. "Then maybe it's time you forgive yourself too." Darius laughs bitterly. "She was the only thing that made me want to." The city outside glows like 1,000 apologies he'll never be able to speak. Amara returns home, collapsing onto her piano bench. The keys are cold under her fingers. She begins to play, not the melody of hope this time, but one of heartbreak and awakening. Each note spills from her like truth. Outside, rain begins to fall, mirroring the tears she no longer hides. As she plays, her mother enters quietly, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Sometimes love is the hardest way to learn who we are," Evelyn whispers. Amara nods, eyes closed, letting the music carry her pain away into something almost like forgiveness. Weeks pass in silence. Darius walks through his empty office like a ghost haunting his own empire. Every deal feels hollow without Amara's light. One morning, a file lands on his desk. An old investigative report, Jade quietly dug up. Inside, Darius finds evidence that Jonathan Ellis, Amara's father, was framed for embezzlement by one of Darius' former mentors, the true culprit who destroyed both their families. The realization hits him like a blow. His revenge wasn't justice. It was misdirection. "I've been fighting the wrong enemy," he whispers. For the first time in his life, he feels the weight of all the wrongs he's done. Not to his mother's memory, but to Amara's heart. Darius drives across Atlanta to find Amara. He parks outside her small music studio, watching through the window as she teaches a group of children piano. The way she smiles, patient and radiant, breaks him open all over again. He steps inside quietly, waiting until the lesson ends. "What are you doing here?" she asks, her voice steady but guarded. He takes a breath. "I came to tell you the truth. All of it." She studies him for a long moment, then nods once. "Then say it." They sit across from each other at a corner table in a nearby cafe. Darius unfolds the documents, explaining everything. The false accusations, his misunderstanding, the pain that guided him. Amara listens in silence, tears glimmering but unshed. "You wanted revenge for something that never happened," she says softly. Darius nods, eyes hollow. "I know, and I can't undo it, but I can make it right." She looks out the window, rain beginning to fall, then back at him. Redemption isn't about fixing what's broken, Darius. It's about who you become after it breaks. Later that night, Darius visits his mother's grave for the first time in years. The wind moves through the oak trees like a whisper of release. "I thought I was honoring you," he says softly, placing lilies on the grass. "But I only carried your pain instead of your strength." For a long moment, He kneels there in silence. When he stands, his face is calm. The kind of calm that comes only after surrender. Somewhere in the city, he imagines Amara playing again, her music carrying through the night like forgiveness, taking shape. The next day, Amara receives an anonymous envelope containing legal documents, proof that her father's name has been cleared. She doesn't need to guess who sent it. When she looks outside, Darius is standing across the street, hands in his pockets, waiting, not asking for forgiveness, but hoping. She crosses slowly, the sound of her heels against the pavement echoing like heartbeats. "You did it," she says softly. He nods. "You deserve the truth." She studies him, eyes full of everything left unsaid. "And you?" she asks. He smiles faintly, weary but whole. "I'm still learning what I deserve." A month passes, and Atlanta begins to warm again. Darius keeps a quiet distance, giving Amara space to live freely. Yet every morning, he finds himself walking past the community center where she now teaches full-time. He watches through the glass as children laugh and music fills the air. It's not longing that brings him back, it's peace. For the first time in years, he feels the world move without his control and doesn't fear it. Across the room, Amara looks up and sees him standing there, sunlight on his face. For a fleeting moment, their eyes meet, and they both smile. Not with regret, but with quiet understanding. Later that afternoon, Amara finds him waiting outside. "You still don't know how to say goodbye," she teases softly. Darius laughs, a sound lighter than he remembers. "Maybe I don't want to," he replies. She folds her arms, pretending to think. "Maybe you don't have to." For a long beat, they simply stand in the sunlight. Two people who have lost and found themselves in equal measure. The air carries a sense of new beginnings. Raw, but real. That evening, Amara performs at a small local recital. Her first since the scandal cleared. Darius sits quietly in the back, unannounced. When she finishes her final piece, the crowd erupts into applause. But her eyes search for only one face. When she finds him, their gazes hold. No grand gestures, no dramatic confessions, just mutual recognition that they survived the storm together. For Darius, is enough. For Amara, it is everything. After the recital, he waits outside beneath the streetlights. She steps into the cool night air, music still echoing faintly from the hall. "You came," she says. "Always," he answers simply. They stand beneath the same city skyline where their story began. No longer enemies, not quite lovers yet, but something pure. "You don't owe me anything, Darius," she whispers. "I don't," he agrees, "but I want to earn it anyway." The city hums around them, alive and forgiving. Weeks later, Darius and Amara walk hand in hand through Piedmont Park at sunset. The world feels still, the air thick with summer promise. They talk about the future, about music, about foundations they'll build together to help underprivileged youth chase their dreams. When they pause beneath the oak trees, Amara leans her head against his shoulder. "You bought my past once," she says softly. "But this we build together." Darius smiles, eyes glistening. "Forever," he replies. And for the first time, the word doesn't sound like a promise. It sounds like truth.